Hi, I'm Pam Hayes from Hayes Sewing Machine Company of Wilmington, Delaware, and welcome back to our creative videos. Today, I'm going to show you how to do a zippered cosmetic bag. And it is a quilt as you go, and the zipper is done for you. You gotta love, yes, you gotta love that. It has bias that you're going to put the fabric into to stitch it, and I love it. It's called a Zippity Doo Done, the Tuck and Sew Zipper Solution. I thought that was like, wow, that was very wordy for, wow, that's pretty cool. It has the zip already, again, in there for you, so you don't have to worry about it. It is done by Tailor, which means that if you've never worked with her things before, they have numbers to them. And you can see exactly where you need to sew. It's going to be a kind of quilt as you go, so it's a stitch and flip technique. I have already prepped the other side.
It's pretty.
And you know, living in Pennsylvania, it kind of looks like
the Keystone State, right?
It kind of looks like our Keystone State symbol. There you go. You basically are going to choose fabric that you're going to have for the lining, and you're going to sew, get this upright, you're going to stitch just inside that outside perimeter line. You want to have fabric left over, and she gives you all of the measurements that you're going to need. But what's nice, to do both bags, and both bags are included in the packaging, it is a 1/4 yard of each of 6 fabrics, and then a backing fabric of a 1/2 yard. So not a lot.
And that does 2 bags?
And that does 2 bags.
Oh, nice. And they have 2 zippers in there as well?
And they have 2 zippers.
Slick.
It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, for the larger bag, you use the larger, longer zipper, and vice versa. Okay, so this is what we're going to be doing, and Loretta, you can come on over here, and we're going to get started. We want to start on the other side, which I've already done. It started with the number 1. You know.
Gotcha.
Okay, so
we start with 1.
we start with 1.
Even our math skills go that far.
Math skills, yes. But when you're working with it, obviously on the second side, she doesn't start with 1 again. She continues with the numbers.
So we find the lowest number?
We find the
Which
lowest
is 9.
Which is 9. Isn't that good? All right. So she wants you to sew with a scant 1/4, and she also wants you to sew with a walking foot, so it doesn't shift.
Mm-hmm.
I'm using on the Berninas the 97D, which is going to help pull everything through, and I'm going to move it 1 click over to the right. That's what I found worked well for me for scant 1/4. And basically you're going to start with your lowest number, which in this case again is the 9. I'm going to start with that fabric facing up. So the pretty side is up, the wrong side is down towards the number. I then take and I'm going to put my next piece right sides together, and you're going to sew your 1/4 inch seam. So on the 97 foot that I have, I'm just basically going to line it up along the edge. Now, be aware, the thread that you choose, it is going to show on the other side.
Okay.
So this is not the time to use up your kind of
chartreuse free.
Only if you want a contrast. All right. So basically, we's good. We cut. Now, when you're working with this, they're going to tell you to either get a tool, you know, that'll help you flatten it. Okay, this is the stiletto by the Bianni company. So they have the sharp point, which is your stiletto, but they also have a flat section, which is designed to kind of help flatten out stuff.
The seams?
Yep.
Cool.
It does have a nice sheath that goes over the top because it's a stiletto that is sharp. Yeah, I lost that in about 2 seconds. So I have sacrificed a eraser
Oh,
from
gotcha.
the top of a pencil. Okay, so you can do that, or for today, I'm just going to. I have hot hands, so I'm just going to rub it. If you want to add steam. All right. So now at this point, we're going to go and we're going to do number 11. So we start at 9, 10. I'm just showing this morning that I can count. All right, and we're going to again sew. I'm not worrying too much about back stitching because we're going to be sewing over top of this again. All right, press it flat. Go to our number 12. All of the sizes that you need are talked about in the pattern, and obviously there's different size fabric cuts that you need for the small bag to the big. But again, that 1/4 yard of 6 different fabrics will cover it for both. All right, so now we're doing 13. All right, 13 is this piece along the top here. So I'm going to line it up. Now, whenever you started, they had you leave about a 1/2 inch when you cut the batting pieces apart. In other words, don't cut right on where you're going to sew. Leave a little bit. You will be trimming that off later. And they will give you, see how it's a little longer, okay, than the line? So I just balanced it. So see, this is where the line is. So I just kind of balanced it up, and I have about an equal amount on either side.
Got it.
All right. And again, just going to sew across. Just keeping that edge along the line. As with all things, the more accurate you are, the nicer your end product. All right, so you can see again, I'm going to take, and if I have any little threads, I can just trim those up. You can either get them now or give it a haircut at the end. All right, now this is where you can be a rebel if you want to. See how 15 doesn't have anything to do with here?
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, if you wanted to sew 15, just to have that side done.
He's such a rebel.
I know, right? Such a rebel. All right, so now at this point, again, try to have it balanced. They'll again give you the yardage that you need. I just happen to do mine the same color, same fabrics, top and bottom, or side to side, I should say. But if you wanted to be a rebel and do it really patchy, you can do whatever you wished. All right, so that top bit is done, and now we're going to go and we're going to do the bottom. I have some batiks in here, so you know the old rule of thumb, you have one right side, then you have another right side.
Gotta love him.
Gotta love them. So if I can't tell and I'm like 12 inches away from it, just do it. This one though, you have to, it's kind of a weird shape down the bottom, so you want to make sure that you do have it balanced enough to cover. And again, you're either doing this with a walking foot, or I'm utilizing the dual feet foot. They don't suggest that you press this with an iron as you go, because sometimes it'll stretch the batting out of shape.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I just kind of finger press it or use fabric straightener, whatever you want to do work with. And they were also suggesting that if you have fabrics that are kind of loosely woven, that type of thing, do a little spray starch.
Okay. Mary Ellen's Best Press?
Yeah, Mary Ellen's Best Press. Yep, anything like that. Alright, so we're going to get this lined up. And ta-da! We're good.
Lovely.
So pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty quick. Now, they tell you to take and put a little bit of glue or make sure that they're going to lay flat.
Mm-hmm.
Simply because we're going to be stitching from this side and we're going to stitch basically on the line that we've done, the perimeter line, because that's when we then trim.
Okay, gotcha.
All right. So again, I'm going to wing it. It's pretty flat. I'm not going to worry about it. You can kind of feel if it's doing anything weird. And you're going to stitch basically on the line as much as you can. I have my machine set on hover, which means that when I stop, it raises the foot a little bit, so I don't have to keep, hitting the button.
Mm-hmm.
If your
And
machine,
if you have needle stop down, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, needle stop down is also. And when you're working with it, if you don't have that on your machine, a lot of machines nowadays have a knee lever, and the knee lever is great. That way, it'll raise the foot for you without you having to take your hands off your project. Alright, so we're stitching around our shape. The only time I ever worry about it unflapping itself or doing anything weird is like the bottom ones. So you just want to make sure that everything's copacetic. All right. Now, when you're done that, we are going to cut basically next to the line, and you can do it on the right side, you can do it on the wrong side, doesn't really matter. And if you cut a little bit of the straight stitch, I went around, I don't know if you can see it in the, I'm going to do a little zigzag going all around.
Just to finish it off.
Just to finish it off, so it's going to close anything that you inadvertently opened up. Alright, so we're going to go and cut it along. So it takes kind of a really messy looking piece, but once you trim it up, it looks really nice.
And you're doing so good with that, Pam.
I know, it's getting better.
As you just had carpal tunnel surgery.
Yeah, it's getting better. When I was first trying to do the scissors, I was showing a beginning student. She says, well, how do you cut? And I was going in my mind, because it hurt. But I tried not to vocalize that for her, because she's going to go home and think, is the noise you need to make. Yeah, it's getting stronger. Alrighty, so now, ta-da!
Yes!
We have that all done. Now we're going to change our foot, because at this point I want to zigzag the edge. So we're going to go to my 1D foot, because I want to do a zigzag at this point. So we're going to go, and the zigzag is basically 3.5 in width and 1.5 in length, so the kind of the default on this machine. And I'm just going to make it kind of go off the edge. Technically, if you're at the top, it's going to be on the inside. You know, it's where the zip is. You probably don't need to finish off that edge, but it takes you 30 seconds, so it's no big deal.
And with all those inside corners, it's definitely better to do a zigzag rather than trying to serge it or that kind of thing.
Yes, and they did tell you could serge it. And I kind of looked at it and think,
it's going to be a little dicey around the corner that you're working on right now.
So I would rather just zigzag the edge. And I tend to do this first. It is going to have a 1/2 inch seam allowance when we sew it together. But I didn't want to have to then try to overcast that, so I decided to overcast it first. Alright, and we're back down to the beginning. So you can see it didn't take long. Alright, so now in the instructions, they'll basically going to tell you that this thinner bit is the top. This down here is the bottom that's going to give it the depth that we need, like in a traditional bag.
Yeah, like a tote bag.
Like a tote bag. So we're going to take and we're going to basically put it in. Don't overthink it.
Do you have to center up the zipper? Or?
I do try to. So you want to kind of, they give you a little extra, which is nice. I never am a fan of, you know, exactly what you need. So I'm going to basically place the top that I've overcasted right up to the top of the binding. I suppose, you know, I think it would be harder if you try to line up right along the edge. So I just opted for go all the way down. It's a little stronger.
Yeah, I was going to say not only that, but the zipper won't appear floppy.
Yep. And you're going to do a straight stitch. At least that's what I elected to do. A straight stitch. I did a little back stitch. And I'm sewing about 1/8 inch in, and you want to make sure, and I'll show you in just a second, that the zipper tab is up at the top.
Oh, yes, and facing you?
Facing you, yes. You can put a little glue stick underneath there if you would feel more comfortable doing that, but can you see we want the tab so we can actually use it. All right, biggest thing. When you go to do the second side, please make sure it's lined up as best you can. Okay, so when we slide this in, okay, so this piece is going to go in. Can you see I'm trying to see whether that is going, you know, at least close together? When you're working with it, if you had it like,
yeah, might make an interesting bag.
yes, might make an interesting bag. If you're a little off, I don't think life will come to an end, but you want to have it as close as possible.
And that's the advantage of a 1/2 inch seam allowance.
we're going all the way down. All right, so when you line this up, see that the zipper is going to go from side to side. All right. Now, when we do all of the next part here, we're going to do the side seams first. You want to make sure that the zipper is not anywhere near the edge, and you also want to make sure you sew across. So, no zipper head is going to come out.
So
it's like
if
a zipper
they're
stop.
taking it out of the package and they're
Don't
playing with
move.
it, yeah, just
Yep.
be careful you're not pulling the zipper head off. I mean, you can put them back on, but it's never a fun.
No, never a fun thing. Okay. So, at this point, we have this, and you can take it and you can trim them, and you want to leave about 1/8 of an inch. It's going to be caught in the seam anyway. But you do, yeah, whenever, if you are one of those people, and you know who you are, if you are, if you are one of those, let's see if the zipper works, great, but don't
zip it off the end.
Don't zip it off yet. All right, so now we're going to line up this edge, and we're going to make sure the zipper's up the top. Remember, we're doing a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So if you are a quilter, that's going to seem huge to you. And the only thing I kind of made sure I did is on the, where the top, where the zipper is,
Mm-hmm.
I did a little kind of baste just to make sure that it looked good. So I just sewed across, flipped it back to make sure it looked pretty, to make sure that it lined up. And I was happier when I did that because it'll shift on you. It's just one of those.
Because life is better when you quilt tack.
Shh. Don't let that rumor get around, man. So again, you're just going to take and stitch across and make sure it's where you want it to be. Yep, that looks good enough for me. All right, so now take 1/2 inch seam. When you're doing the zip, up at the top. Let me show you what I did at home. I actually took it and I started more forward and then I went backwards. Because take a look, you see how there's quite a pitch on the foot? So you're going to take and we're going to line it up. And you see how I'm starting with the foot level?
Mm-hmm.
And then, starting with the foot level, you're going to go sew backwards. I hit my scissor button inadvertently. All right, so it's going down, and then it's going back up, and it likes it much better.
It climbs the hill better.
Yep. All right, so we're going to go, and we're going to, again, if you were the type of person that if you're off a little bit on the sides, it's going to make you twitch, quilt tack down along the sides as well. I'm just pulling it as best I can. Make sure you do your reverse at the bottom. And you're going to flip it over. And you're going to do the same thing on the other side. So the 1/2 inch seam allowance. And she does tell you a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I remember I started in a little further, kind of about 1 inch. Then I come forward. bottom down. All right, now, she's also very kind. At this point, she says, make sure your zipper is open.
Halfway open.
Yes.
At least.
At least halfway open. You need to be able to put your hand in. Okay. So we're going to take and we are going to do our 1/2 inch seam at the bottom. Again, feel free to put some clips in here if you want to. To me, it's not that long of a seam. I'm just kind of holding on to it. Again, walking foot or at least dual feed. All right, so now we have our bottom done, and now we're just going to do the sides. So this is the part here. Let me show you. Remember, that's the V. If you've done a bag before, this should be vaguely reminiscent. We're going to take and we are going to open up. Try to get that seam on top of itself. And we're going to do our 1/2 inch seam. This basically gives it some depth.
So it'll sit upright on the table?
So it'll sit up right on the table. They have this as a cosmetic bag. I'm going to use it for my knitting, my smaller knitting projects.
Ooh, nice.
Because I think this big bag is a bit overkill for the one eyeshadow color that I use. All right. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. And your bag will then be done. It's just that fast. So these are actually a nice gift. And for the kits, they come with different bias tape colors and different zipper colors. We have the navy blue. I think it's also available in black and white and I think a gray. So they have different colors for your bias tapes and the zips. All right, line it up at your 1/2 inch seam allowance. Do your back stitch. Sew across. You definitely do want to make sure you go off the fold when you're sewing those. Reason being is that's what's keeping the stuff inside your bag. So
You wouldn't want your M&Ms to leak out,
we
right?
wouldn't want our M&Ms to leak out. No, that would be so sad. All right, so we're going to flip it around. And this is very cute. I like my different shades of blue. And then what's nice, ta-da! And if I thought about it, I could have brought my stiletto. I'm just going to, you're not seeing me do this with anything but a
Corner turner, right?
Yep. And there you go.
Oh, it's lovely.
Isn't that sweet?
It is super sweet.
Alrighty. Hope you enjoy it, and we'll see you next time.